In this module, we want to turn our attention to a third argument. And if you've ever been exposed to an argument for the existence of a monotheistic, worshipful deity, it was probably this argument, or a version thereof. So we'll look at the argument in a sort of more or less pure form, as the argument from design, or the teleological argument. And then we'll turn our attention to the argument from natural law, which I consider to be a just slightly different version of this same argument. And then we'll talk about Russell's criticisms of these arguments. So the argument from design has a long history dating back probably all the way to ancient Greece again. But it became popular during the early part of the Enlightenment. And in part, its popularity is due to this fellow here in the bottom left, William Paley. He wrote a book in which he argued that we should believe in God, and his argument was primarily this argument from design. Now, both Immanuel Kant and the Scottish philosopher David Hume wrote long and very interesting criticisms of this argument. So we'll want to look at the argument and we'll want to understand the nature of the critical assessments that emerged about it. So the argument's pretty straightforward. It starts off with an empirical premise. It's an a posteriori argument, and it says, like when you look around, nature everywhere exhibits order in its structure and its processes. So things fit together seamlessly. Everything seems to be part of an closed cycle. Right? The world looks like it runs like a watch. Every part working together in perfect harmony. That's the first premise. The second premise really introduces an analogy. It says, in order to achieve that kind of harmony of structure and process, that order, there has to be something that puts the parts into place that way. There has to be an intelligent designer. And this analogy between the natural world and human artifacts, where the natural world is structured like a human artifact. It works like something that was designed. Those artifacts have a designer that's intelligent, hence the universe must have a designer that's intelligent. That is the core of the argument for design. It seeks to explain natural phenomenon, particularly structure, order. Sometimes people will appeal to things like beauty. Seeks to explain those as the products of design choices. And therefore it concludes that nature, because of its structure, gives us reasons to suppose that an intelligent designer exists, i.e. a God. The next argument that we want to consider, Russell attributes to Sir Isaac Newton. He notes that it was very popular during Newton's lifetime. And I think it's just another version of this argument from design. So again, we start off, nature everywhere exhibits order in its structure and its processes. And specifically, nature seems to have these law-like principles. Things happen in the same way all the time. Laws require a lawgiver. So again, the second premise introduces this analogy. Right? If the world operates in a law-like fashion, society operates in a law-like fashion, the cause of society's laws are the choices and commands of a lawgiver. The choices and commands of a universal lawgiver, a God, must be what's responsible for the law-like behavior in the universe. So laws require a lawgiver, a universal authority that causes this conformity. Therefore, a lawgiver, i.e. God, must exist. So we can see the similarity in these arguments. Both of these arguments look at the world. They see order, structure, they see things intricately connected together in ways that they relate analogically to the choices of human designers, the choices of human lawgivers, the creation of artifacts, the creations of codes of conduct. And then they conclude that that must be the explanation for the order that you observe in the world, just as it's the explanation for the order that you observe when you look at an artifact or you look at a society. So that's why I think these two arguments are kind of versions of the same argument, even though Russell treats them sort of differently.